not in politics, not in the media, anywhere in the world. It's as if the scientists are behind a sheet of plate glass and you can see their hands banging the glass, you can see their lips moving, you can't hear what they're saying.
Hello there, and I do hope you're all well. Now, that little speech came from the Environmental Audit Committee on the Wednesday the 7th of June 2023, where, as you saw, one of the witnesses was George Monbiot, author of Regenesis, Feeding the World Without Devouring the Planet. Also, the other witness was Professor James Lowenberg de Boer. He was Elizabeth Creek Chair of Agritech Economics at Harper Adams University. And in this meeting, the chair, Philip Dunn, asked George Monbiot this question.
We had the example of the pandemic just before the conflagration in Eastern Europe, where a lot of agriculture was disrupted around the world. How would you characterise, George, that experience in terms of acting as an advanced warning of resilience? Did we see resilience breaking down in many economies?
Actually, the food system survived better than I would have anticipated. There were disruptions, and we did see sharp fluctuations in global food prices. We also saw more people going hungry. But it was pretty well in trend. It didn't have the enormous impact that we might have expected. You know, when the thing which tips the system over the brink is impossible to predict. You know, it can be the butterfly's wing. It can be a relatively small fluctuation, like the subprime crisis in the US tipped the financial system. It might be a very big disruption, but it almost certainly won't be the thing that we think it's going to be. Now, the really worrying trend here is that since 2015, the rate of global chronic hunger has been rising. And for the first 5 years of that rise, global food prices were historically low. So any economist will tell you, well, that's impossible. If food prices are low, fewer people will be hungry. But what we were seeing there is that a system that's lost its resilience starts transmitting shocks instead of damping them down, because a resilient, robust, complex system using negative feedback loops will damp down shocks. A system losing its resilience, those negative feedback loops will turn to positive ones. It will amplify shocks. Those shocks did not fall on us, the rich nations, because we were front of the queue. We are hard currencies, strong buying power. They hit the poor nations. And we saw local food price spikes even when the global price was low. But we should be just as worried about this situation as the poorer nations are, because this is what systems theorists call flickering. When you start seeing these apparently inexplicable fluctuations happening, that suggests you are close to a tipping point. Now, I've been reading the transcripts of previous hearings on this subject by the committee, and if I may be allowed a note of mild criticism, I'll say there's been too much focus on our national situation, and there's in some cases been a confusion between food security and food nationalism. And I know that Henry Dimbleby went to some lengths to say there's lots of different kinds of food security, and one is the U-boat food security where, you know, it is food nationalism. But actually, the thing that threatens us far more than any other factor is the global system going down. And it's reading scientific papers now, going back 10 or 12 years, about the threats to the global system. You get the impression there's been no pickup of this at all. Not in politics, not in the media, anywhere in the world. It's as if the scientists are behind a sheet of plate glass and you can see their hands banging the glass, you can see their lips moving, you can't hear what they're saying. And it's a truly terrifying situation. I read over 5,000 papers when I was researching this book. The most frightening of all were the ones that related to the systemic fragility of the global food system, and no one's attending to that. We urgently need to.
Do you agree, guys? Is he right? Well, Professor James Lowenberg de Boer, who was also in the meeting, he seemed to agree with pretty much what George Monbiot had to say, but what do you guys think? Also, if you also want to hear what Professor James Lowenberg de Boer had to say, I've also uploaded the meeting in full. And also there was another meeting, but what I've done is I've left a link in the description box, so if you want to watch it, you can watch it from there. Also, if you enjoyed what George Monbiot had to say, give the video a like. It all helps. And if you enjoy stuff like this in select committee meetings, and hell, there's a lot of select committee meetings, why don't you subscribe to my channel? That's all I do here. So all I'm going to say is subscribe and have a fantastic weekend, and take care, my friends.